Welcome to Fantasy Smack Talk. I'm Dustin and I'm excited about this show. Get to talk about a lot of my favorite sleepers coming into the year. I love it when a plan comes together, and the first guy I'm going to talk about, first guy with must add in all leagues, Roy Halou, only on 35% of leagues. I've been saying it all year. He's going to be there when it counts the most as far as Redskins running backs go, and it looks like that's going to be the case. Played pretty well week 9. Looks like he's definitely going to get another start to show what he can do even more. He's outplayed Terrain, I feel, at this point. Shanahan could always throw us a curveball, but I do feel that the Halou era in Washington has officially begun. Next must-adds, one of my other boys, Kennel Hunter. I really liked him coming into the year because of this very reason. Frank Gore's banged up. He sprained his ankle. He's probably, my guess is going to be questionable week 10. Now, Hunter's only on 15% of leagues. All you Gore owners who didn't have Hunter on your bench, you're going to learn a very important lesson. You should have grabbed him because Hunter is going to get the majority of the carries and could be a good play for you against the Giants this week. Next, couple more must-add running backs. The first one, Jackie Battle. He's not going to blow you away. I don't think he has a huge ceiling, but he's a starting running back on a decent offense, and he's going to get the goal lines. He needs to be owned in more than 70% of leagues. And the last must-add running back, Daniel Thomas. He's been dropped in a lot of leagues because of his injury. He's only on 60% of leagues right now. And, Reggie Bush is playing well, so people don't think Thomas is going to get back in the mix. But when he gets healthy, I fully expect him to. They're going to be somewhat careful with Reggie Bush. They're not going to give him much more than 12 to 15 touches a game once Thomas is healthy. And there is always the chance of a Reggie Bush injury. Now that bye weeks are pretty much done, pick up Daniel Thomas if he's been dropped in your league. See what happens with him. Just stash him on your bench and see what happens. And our last must-add in all leagues is Mr. Timmy Tebow. He proved week 9 what he can do against mediocre defenses. Obviously against the Lions wasn't so great. But he rushed for over 100 yards, and that's what I've been saying is the reason to consider adding Tim Tebow. He's only on about 60% of leagues right now. And here's how I like to look at it. In my league, you get a point for every 30 passing yards. That's the equivalent. 100 rushing yards is equivalent to 300 passing yards. That's the way to look at it for Tim Tebow and his potential in fantasy. All right, let's talk about some must-adds in deeper leagues. Another one of my boys, Damian Williams. If you didn't see his touchdown catch week 9, go check it out. Pretty impressive. But with Nate Washington a little banged up, just more reason to like Damian Williams. But the thing I don't understand about him is he's only owned in about 5% of leagues. I know there's more than 5% of teams that are looking for a young wide receiver with upside. Williams could be your guy. Next, Laurent Robinson, only on about 15% of leagues. He's looked pretty decent at times this year. He's going to get probably the chance to start at least 2 to 4 more games with Miles Austin out. Could be a nice short-term ad for you. Next, Steve Breston, on about 40% of leagues. Brent definitely didn't want to see this with all of his Baldwin hype. We're still really high on Baldwin. I still really like Baldwin. But it's going to be kind of a mess out there with those 3 receivers. Breston was the guy week 9. Baldwin might be the guy week 10. Who knows? But Breston is still definitely worth an ad in deeper leagues. He's going to have some more big games probably down the stretch. Next, pick up and play defense for you, and that's the Redskins. Surprising for the Redskins, they're really not getting a lot of fantasy love. Out of they're a top 12 defense right now in fantasy, and they're the only top 12 defense that is owned in less than 50% of leagues. And they're only owned in 25% of leagues. They got a matchup against Miami week 10. I like them as a pick up and play defense this week. Next, Jacoby Ford. Right when it looks like Hayward Bay's the clear-cut #1 out there, now it's back to just being a mess. Jacoby Ford was a guy we really liked coming into the year, especially in leagues that count return yards. He's going to give you a little boost there. He's definitely worth a look at in those leagues and in some deeper standard leagues. Moving on, we got Jake Ballard, tight end for the Giants. With Nicks banged up, he had a few more targets week 9. He looked pretty good. And if you look at his game log, he's been very consistent this year. And I think he's worth an ad in deeper leagues if you're looking for a tight end. If your tight end, maybe Vernon Davis, who hasn't really been playing that great, or one of the other tight ends that's underperforming. Dallas Clark just went down. If you're looking for a tight end, Ballard is quickly becoming one of Eli's favorite targets. And one individual defensive player to talk about, Carlos Dansby, only owning about 10% of leagues. He's been a tackle machine as of late. In the last few years, he's been right around 100 tackles. He can definitely still tackle. He's a little bit older, but he's starting to look pretty good for that Miami defense. Now this is just a portion of the Week 10 waiver wire. As always, get onto the site to see the full list. If you got any questions, don't post them on YouTube, post them in our forums. We answer as many as we can, and we will answer some on our weekly show later this week. Good luck on the waiver wire.